You're listening to School Counseling Simplified, a podcast with easy-to-implement strategies for busy school counselors. Here's your host, Rachel Davis from Bright Futures Counseling.
Hey listeners, let me let you in on a little secret. You don't have to stress about planning your class lessons, small groups, and individual sessions anymore. My school counseling membership program, Impact, is here to help. So, what do Impact members get? Monthly curriculum plans across all 3 tiers, SEL lessons, small groups, individual, and seasonal activities, step-by-step video implementation guides, bi-weekly Zoom coaching calls with me, and exclusive Facebook group community. This membership is designed for school counselors who want to deliver the best possible content to their students, but who also want to just press the easy button. You'll get access to monthly curriculum plans, resources, support, and community so you can deliver quality, engaging, life-changing counseling lessons to your kiddos. So what do you think? Are you ready to make an impact? Join today at stressfreeschoolcounseling.com/impact. Hey y'all, Happy New Year's and Happy 2022. I just cringed because I heard myself say New Year's, and I know it's like Happy New Year, or what are you doing for New Year's Eve, like apostrophe S, but I always tend to say like, what y'all doing for New Year's? Anyways, probably not correct, but still fun. I love the new year, clearly. Well, I take that back. I love and hate the new year. I love the actual new year and the, setting of goals and intentions and getting excited for things to come and planning out everything. I always have wild optimism at the beginning of a new year. And I'm feeling extra optimistic this year because it's 2022 and 22 is my favorite number. So kind of random, kind of dorky, but I think it's just going to be a good one. I sure hope so. But my optimism has been wrong in the past because I remember New Year's Eve 2020, I was pregnant and just feeling so excited for the year to come, and I was celebrating with friends, and I was just thinking how awesome of a year it was going to be, and it was going to be my best year yet, and then we saw how that happened. But it was great because I didn't have my baby, and I personally had a pretty good year, although globally things were not great. But anyways, so I do love New Year's and like setting resolutions and such. I know a lot of people, talk crap about setting resolutions, but I think it's fun. Why not try to get a little goal-oriented, a little motivation? But I also kind of hate New Year's in the fact that I kind of hate New Year's Eve. I think it's a lot of hype. It's like my least favorite holiday. I love to stay up till midnight, love champagne, love glitter, all the things, but it's just kind of, I don't know, I feel like it's always like really expensive and stressful, or I'm usually traveling and it's kind of a crazy time of year to travel. So anyways, this year we are staying home, keeping it pretty low key, and don't have a babysitter, so keeping it real low key actually. We'll probably be in by 8 p.m., but it'll be fun. So hopefully we can still see some fireworks from the house. I'd love to know what you guys are doing. Obviously, I'm recording this before New Year's, and I know I think this will air on the 4th. But I was debating on what to do this episode on because I was thinking, well, it's the new year. I should do some kind of goal setting or resolution or things I wish I knew as a counselor kind of thing. But then I felt like that was kind of cheesy, and that if you listen to other podcasts, they're likely all having a similar theme. So I decided to go off script a little bit, and to do an Ask Me Anything. So we posted an Ask Me Anything question in our Facebook group the other day. So that's our Bright Future School Counselors group. It's a public free group open to anybody. We'd love to have you. We'll link to it in the show notes. But in the Facebook group, we have fun stuff going on in there, and people troubleshoot and share things. And I had Ask Me Anything and had a couple responses. So I'm going to answer those questions, which is kind of fun. And then, of course, we'll stick a little to tradition. So I did ask on my Instagram stories. I did a question earlier this morning and asked what your New Year's resolutions were as a school counselor specifically, or your goals for 2022 as a school counselor. So I'm excited to share some of those with you guys. I'm going to keep everything anonymous because the people submitting these things didn't sign up to be on the podcast necessarily. They just shared them. So I'll keep the names aside, but I want to share these things and hopefully you find it helpful as you're going forward into your new year. Okay, so let's dive in. Let's start with the Ask Me Anything. So I got 2 questions. They're quite different. First up, What should I do or expect on my first day in my new position as a school counselor? So I love this question. I especially love that she's asking it now because, usually we're thinking about this at back to school time in August. But the truth is, a lot of people start their jobs mid-year in January, So it's the end of the semester, start of a new calendar year. Maybe you graduated in December. Everyone's schedule is a little different. So I'm sure you're not the only one who's thinking this. So I'm really glad you asked. And I have a few tips. So I started to think of all these fun things to write down, and then I'm like, wait, that's too many. It's the first day. Pump the brakes, relax. I'm always kind of awkward on my first day places. I'm very extroverted in general, but in some ways I can be kind of an introvert. And one of these ways is that I don't like being new at things necessarily. I like being good at things. So I like to try new things. I do. And I put myself out there and I'm pretty vulnerable, but I don't like being bad or new at things. So for example, a new job, if I can't figure out where the copier is or the fridge to put my lunch, I would rather just eat my lunch not cold than ask somebody else. It's so weird, I know. I wonder if any of you are like that as well. It's like a pride thing, I guess, but it's super silly because obviously I wouldn't know these things being new. But at my first counseling job, I remember I didn't find out where the laminator was until March, and I started in August. I was about to buy a personal laminator off Amazon and laminate some stuff at home before I was oh, I should probably figure out where the laminator is. It wasn't a really weird spot, to be fair, to my credit. Okay, so anyways, it's your first day. Take it chill. Don't overthink it or overstress. But I do have a few tips for you. First up, leave the office. So it may be tempting to kind of hide in your office, and maybe even if you're doing counselor stuff prepping some stuff or reading up on some things or on your caseload, or maybe you're even decorating your office. And those things are fun and necessary, but I encourage you to do those, later after school or something, after the kids leave, because this time you want to be present. So you want to be out and about meeting people. You want to be a friendly face on campus and start to establish those relationships and rapport ASAP. So, pop into some classrooms. You can even shadow some teachers. So this is a few things. First off, it allows you to observe their teaching style. So if you're like me and you didn't have any teaching experience beforehand, you may not have any, classroom management skills, but you're going to need those when you do your class guidance lessons. So it's important, go in there, watch, and go to different teachers, and observe their teaching style and kind of see, ooh, I like how they do that. Ooh, I don't like how they do that. Ooh, I think I'll use that. And then as far as, classroom management strategies, definitely take notes of some of those. Those always come in handy. You can even use them in a small group setting as well. It's also helping you, get the names and faces of everyone. A school is intimidating, hundreds of people there. It's a lot of names and faces to learn. So I recommend that you, check them out, try to figure out, oh, this is a third grade teacher, maybe make a little list or something, because you want to make an effort there, and get to know people's names and faces as soon as you can. Obviously, it'll take a little time, but I don't know, it's important. It was a personal goal for me when I first started working at a school. I had always said, oh, I'm bad at names. Yeah, I'm bad at names. But then I started working at the school, and I'm like, I'm going to have to get good at names because there's a lot of names to learn. And then I just decided I'm going to be good at names. And, I don't know if God just gave me that ability all of a sudden or if it was a growth mindset or what, but I was pretty good with names after that. And also just showing up in the classrooms is showing teachers that you're making an effort. You're here, you want to get to know them, you respect what they're doing. A lot of times we don't want to step on any toes. You don't want to come in kind of hot with I'm the counselor and we're going to do this, this, and this. Some teachers maybe have been there for a really long time, and you want to show that you are curious about what they're doing and you respect what they're doing and you want to learn more. So hop in some classrooms. Then, and of course, I didn't even mention this part, not only can you shadow the teachers, but you can shadow the students. So this is a good time to see, which kiddos are having some behaviors that are standing out. Notice little cliques that are forming. All these things will help later. You may end up seeing some of these kiddos individually or in groups. And then you can do you can either do one, would be kind of a lot for the first day, but you can start planning and meet the counselor lesson and a needs assessment. So these are my first two things right out the rip that I like to do. So a needs assessment is a wonderful way to find out the needs of the school, the needs of the student population. So You can send out one using a Google form to staff and say, hey, I'm the new counselor. I'd love to know what you guys, what areas you think our school needs to focus on. Have a space for some open notes where they can write some student recommendations or any extra information that they think you would benefit from. And I also recommend meeting with the principal, asking for some time to sit with them and kind of see, what was the counselor doing last year? What do you want me to do? But come with your own ideas too. So I'm, come in there with your ask a model and say, I'm going to do this, this, and this. I plan on doing class lessons. I plan on doing small groups, referral-based small groups, referral-based individual sessions. Come with a plan, but also, keep an open mind. And talk to the principal to kind of see, who were frequent flyers earlier in the semester. Maybe you need to know some background. Oh, this student, just lost a parent, or this student and this student are having a lot of conflict. Anything like that can be really helpful. But so you can go ahead and do a needs assessment and meet with the principal to find out, a good starting place. And then that Meet the Counselor lesson, I love those. I have a couple of them in my TPT store that we'll link to in the show notes, a game show that's great, and a mission, more interactive style one. I also have some boom cards too. But just, they don't take long, especially if you get a low, no prep one like the game show. And you can just go in the classrooms, introduce yourself really quickly, and get students to learn a little bit more about your role and who you are. So that's what I recommend for your first day. And then I also recommend that you join boot camp. So I have a boot camp for new school counselors. It's completely free. It's a video series. And it's kind of where I walk you through step by step everything you need to know about your internship, the application process, starting your new job, your first 30, 60, 90 days, all that good stuff. There's also a 30, 60, 90-day plan we can link to in the show notes as well, a guide you can download. That's something awesome you could go ahead and start looking at. And that's something you could kind of share with your principal. My husband actually told me this trick because he was in a sales job, and he, said, oh, that's super common to when you get hired to be this is my 30, 60, 90-day plan. I was like, oh, really? Never heard of it. But then I decided to make one for counseling. And it was great. It really got me thinking about what's most important in those first 3 months. And I think your principal will be, blown away by that and really excited to hear what you have to say. So download that free guide and then sign up for the free boot camp. So it's stressfreeschoolcounseling.com/bootcamp, and we'll link to that as well. But over there, you can get a lot of good free info on what to do if you're brand new. Awesome. Great question. Now, our second Ask Me Anything question was, this one is tough. It's really tough and sad, but I think it may relate to a lot of you. So this person said, we just learned of one of our dearest colleagues passing today. This is a heavy feat for me and for my other colleagues. I know it'll be even harder for her students when we break the news to them after winter break. Any suggestions when counseling with her students, colleagues, etc.? First off, I'm so extremely sorry for your loss. Losing colleagues and teachers is so difficult. So especially if you had a personal relationship with this colleague, I'm so sorry for your loss. And I can't imagine what you're going through. I know it must be very difficult to grieve yourself while helping others grieve. I think the things we want to keep in mind here, it's so important to speak to students honestly, but also with compassion. And, I'll give a few tips here, but you want to keep in mind this will vary based on the age of the students you work with. I'm not sure your population. But you want to keep in mind if you're going in classes and you're talking to the students that they may have, a previous loss that they've experienced as well. So when you're speaking to a large group of students, that may be triggering for some students. So keep that in mind. So I think you can go into the classrooms, or that teacher met with, and definitely explain the definition of grief. Make sure that they understand all the feelings are okay to experience. So, sadness, anger, fear, any of these feelings are okay to experience. Let them know that. And then you can suggest some appropriate coping strategies that they can try, and some suggestions for grieving in a healthy way. I did an episode back last January. I did a couple grief episodes where I talk more in depth on this about going in the classroom. So I recommend, we'll link to those in the show notes as well, but I recommend you going and checking those out for some more tips on that. But also, you're going to have some students who are taking it harder than others. So be prepared to maybe do a small group on grief, or maybe even meet with some of the individual level. And then just making yourself available for students if they want to pop in and chat. Maybe they don't need a reoccurring weekly session with you, to discuss the grief, but maybe they just want to pop in. Make yourself available for a few weeks. And as colleagues, I recommend that you make yourself available for them as well. So maybe you can have a time before or after school where your coworkers can either meet with you one-on-one or kind of do a group. I think a group might be helpful, kind of process through it together. This is intimidating, though. I know I was at a school where one of our teachers got a pretty bad diagnosis with cancer, and a lot of the teachers were grieving, but it was tough because I was kind of new and like a lot younger than them, so I feel like they weren't very comfortable coming to me, which is totally fine. But in that case, you do want to be prepared to bring in other support, so community supports, or maybe you have another school in the district who can lend over a counselor for a little bit. If there's a lot of students who are grieving as well, you're going to need that support. So definitely go to the district level and find out what outside support you can bring in temporarily, because keep in mind you're going to have your normal caseload as well. Although some things that are less important can definitely go on pause for a few weeks. So you could, like I said, partner with the other districts or, mental health professionals if you feel ill-equipped to help the staff or some of the students. And then you could also reach out to the family, see how you can support them, even if it's just something small like sending flowers or food, a thoughtful, gesture to the family. You could help organize that as well. So those are just a few things. Please take the time to take care of yourself as well. It was a dear colleague, you said, so you yourself are processing the grief and loss. So you want to be mindful of that and, give yourself grace and time. So we are thinking of you as you go through this tough time. And hopefully what I've shared here can help someone else as well if they're in a similar boat. Okay, so those are the Ask Me Anything questions. That was kind of fun answering some questions. We may do that again, so keep a lookout in our Facebook group. And you can, maybe I'll put something on Instagram as well for those of you who aren't on Facebook, and you can jot down some questions you have in the hopes that others have them too. Okay, so now to our Instagram poll. So I put up an Instagram this morning that said, what are your 2022 goals as a school counselor? Serious or silly? I want to know. I wanted to know your counselor New Year's resolutions. So we got a few here. First up, someone said to land my first full-time job. Yes! Good luck. We hope you do land your first full-time job in 2022. Again, even if you're still applying or still an intern, I encourage you to take that new school counselor boot camp because you'll find it super helpful. I created it literally just for, fresh grads. So that's definitely for you. Someone else said, get back to actual counseling and less crisis response. Oh my goodness. Yes. I'll do the clappy hands for this one. Yes, I love establishing a crisis response team protocol. And I saw this and I was like, ooh, I need to dive deep into this, guys. I've talked about it a little bit before on previous episodes, but I'm going to do an episode next week where we dive into like the scheduling aspect a little more. And we'll talk about how you can get back to actual counseling, which is what you love and your passion, and how you can spend less time doing crisis response. Okay, someone else said, run at least 5 counseling groups this spring semester. I love it. Yes, I love groups. 5 is totally doable in the semester. You can do it. Get your group curriculum, get it outlined and ask aligned, and then you can make sure that, if there's 6 to 8 weeks, you can alternate them. Yes, I love it. Love it. Someone said surviving. Yes. I so appreciate your honesty there. I mean, it's kind of funny, right? But seriously, surviving. It has been a tough year. I know. And I just feel like I went back to the States for Christmas and so many people are sick right now and it's just tough. So surviving. Yes. Just surviving and hopefully thriving a little bit in 2022. Oh, someone said, I will eat lunch every day. Yes, I love that. How often are we guilty of skipping our lunch, right? Or eating lunch while chatting with the kid? Like, we need to take that time and that well-deserved lunch break to reset. So I'm going to talk more about that next week when I talk about scheduling as well, how you can make that happen. Then I got, these two are pretty similar. One says keep more data, and one says working with data more effectively. Absolutely. So I was, preparing for this episode, and I was like, ooh, maybe I'll talk about data, but I could do a deep dive on data all day. So that's why I decided later this month we'll go a little deeper on data collection, and I'll give you like some very concrete tools that you can use that are easy to implement, not intimidating, and I think that will get you some great results. Then we have someone else said, graduate grad school, get a job, learn to embrace what I don't know, and face it head on. Love the enthusiasm. That's excellent. Yes, so again, check out boot camp if you're about to graduate or if you're applying for jobs. I think you'll find it super helpful. Yes, and good luck to all of you who are applying this year. That's so, so exciting. Okay, we have two more. Another one said to survive. Yes, I think a lot of us are in the same boat with this right now, just to survive, and if that's the case, sometimes when you see other people talking about their goals or their resolutions or their plans for the new year, it can be either two things, right? It can be motivating, like, yeah, I feel the same way. I'm going to do this too. Or it can be discouraging, like, oh, I'm just going to, have paralysis and not do anything because I feel so overwhelmed and discouraged. And then I'm comparing myself to all these people who apparently are doing great things, and I'm just trying to, keep my head above water. So I know that feeling. It is totally okay to be in that season. Make sure you're taking care of yourself and surviving, self-care. Do what you can. The littlest things will make a difference to the kids. If you had this big thing planned and it's not going to happen, don't worry about it. Do what you can to take care of you. It's a tough season for sure. And the last one, new job that pays what I'm worth. Ooh, I love the confidence. Yes, you deserve to definitely get paid what you're worth. I'm sure all of you are underpaid right now. But yes, cheers to you for going to apply for a new job. So good luck on that search as well. Okay, everybody, this was kind of a mixed match episode, but I hope you found a takeaway or something helpful. I hope you have an excellent back to school new year. I hope you had a restful break and that you're feeling good to go for what 2022 has to bring. Okay, I'll talk to you next week.
Thanks for listening to School Counseling Simplified. You can find the links from today's episode in the show notes. If you'd like to connect with Rachel, she's on Instagram and Teachers Pay Teachers at Bright Futures Counseling. Be sure to subscribe to the podcast so you don't miss any episodes of School Counseling Simplified. Talk to you next week.